Good morning. Good morning.
Waiting with anxious anticipation.
Is that Guay?
In the last 10 years, Formlabs 3D printers brought over 100 million ideas to life, from desktops all over the world. But what about ideas that are larger than life? Introducing the Form 3L ecosystem, the first automated benchtop suite that brings your biggest ideas to life in-house. Bring rugged and efficient power on the go with the PowerNess Solar Generator. These power stations are thoughtfully designed to replace your fuel generator with clean and constant power. The PowerNess generator keeps on going with the PowerNess solar panels for efficient and eco-friendly charging. The lightweight and portable design makes PowerNess the perfect partner for an elevated adventure. So get out there and connect to what matters most. PowerNess. Always be powered. We're in the business of saving the world. Our mission is to fight climate change and lower carbon emissions through the power of solar. Electricity has changed the landscape of our lives. It encouraged us to innovate. It made our lives better. But somewhere in the middle, we lost track of what's important.
With a 3-year, 3,000-hour warranty and loads of standard features, the SCA 1000A is a healthy investment. It meets the demands of the job and keeps on performing for you, day in and day out.
Big tech wants into our vehicles. Google, Amazon, and Apple are vying to control how you operate within your car and capture drivers' personal data, stifling innovation, competition, and privacy. Protect our automakers and consumers. Don't let big tech lock out the competition.
Could a small device change the way you work forever? Hands-free, easy to use, connected. Recon Jet Pro is built for work.
Imagine if this food truck was as unreliable as most internet providers.
Could I get the chicken club, please, but no mustard on that? I don't know if you have like a buffalo sauce or mustard is fine. Oh, actually, I wasn't done. Ma'am. Let's just give it 1 minute. I refuse to call customer service again.
Now, imagine better with RCN, voted #1 nationwide.
Welcome to Meet the Biz. Okay, I always laugh at that because it's exciting. It's like taking another ride at Disneyland, which, by the way, I'm planning to go this next week. Anybody want to join? We'll have a group fest and I'll wear my Mickey ears. I'd wear this, but it might not go. Oh my God, today I've known this wonderful human being for many, many years. He's been a dear friend. He is so talented. He's a voiceover artist. He is an actor. He's a stunning writer. I have to say, even the birthday cards are the best. I was like, oh my God. Anyway, he has so much heart in his work. The wonderful Joe Guay.
David.
I love it.
Guay, gay, what is it?
I know. Well, it's now that you brought that up. What is that story?
Oh, just quickly, it's so funny. The last name is spelled Guay. The U is silent, so technically it's pronounced gay. A lot of my relatives still go by the last name of Gay because that is how it is pronounced. However, I got tired of correcting people when I went to college, and I was also in the closet, and I was embarrassed about my sexuality and everything, and so I just stopped correcting people, and more importantly, people latched onto it and seemed to love to say Guay like you. And so eventually, a bunch of years ago, when I decided to just start owning again that my name really is pronounced Joe Gay and everything. It didn't matter because so many people, and I remember David, you were one of the first people that popped into my mind, like, how is David going to deal with not being able to scream Guay every time he sees me? So I mean, to this day, people call me Joe, Joey, Joseph, Gay, or Guay, and I answered all of them.
And my mom calls you
Glay. Glay. Your beautiful 98-year-old Mama Leah.
I know. I don't know how she got the L in there, but
I adore her, and I adore you.
Oh, well, I have to say, this is fun. This is like just like a Zoom visit, right? It is a Zoom visit.
It is a Zoom visit, but it's freaking me out because I've watched hundreds of these Meet the Biz interviews online, and it's like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be talking to him myself.
Well, of course, you are the biz. And by the way, if everybody doesn't know, Joe does the captioning for all the Meet the Biz episodes. He's done about 98% of them.
And I'm fixing some of them too. I mean, the computer captions them, but then I do, I guess, more of what's considered the attribution, where it says David said this, and Luke said this, and Allison Angram, or however you say her last name, said this. So yeah.
Okay.
So I'm going back and fixing a few that I have yet to do. But yes, I've watched almost every interview for that reason.
Right. And what I love about Joe is, and we'll get to his writing in a little while, but anyway, he might be like writing a little, who knows, about the Meet the Biz show. So I'm very excited. We're all very excited for that.
Definitely. Because I've learned so much. I've learned so much watching it.
Well, yeah. I'm glad for
opened my eyes to so many I don't know, just has opened my eyes to so many things, and not just through the guests, but the students and everything that they've succeeded in doing. So it's good.
Us artists who are all here today, Corey started his class like this, and I usually end the interview like this, but I thought I'd switch it around and ask you, what do you want the most at this moment in your life?
Oh my gosh. You're at the beginning of the interview. What do I want the most at this moment in my life? At this moment in my life, I wanted to lose a few pounds and get rid of these cheeks.
Great cheeks.
What do I actually want? I mean, I love that question of yours because it's not just what do you want? It's like, what do you want at this exact moment in your life, right? Well, because I have started writing, I would like to get some things published, not just online, but in legacy publications. But online too, Huffington Post or Chicken Soup for the Soul or USA Today, they all have columns, as it were. What else do I want? I just want to continue how it is currently. I mean, I really have found myself in a good place finally. So that and travel. I'm very fixated on traveling.
I'm going to Disneyland. You want to join?
Yeah, maybe.
So I was reading that your first love was the musical theater.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. How did that grow? How did that spurn, whatever the word again?
Oh, it was absolutely my everything. But not until around age 13. Like, I loved watching movies, and my mom took me to see plays a lot. Like, there were ladies in her church that participated in plays, and I remember going to see Pirates of Penzance, an old play called Mary Mary, and a few other things. Agatha Christie's 10 Little Indians. And I went and I watched them, but it never crossed my mind like this is something I could do or that I might want to do as a child. And it wasn't until around age 12, our next door neighbor was in a production of The Sound of Music at the high school that I was going to be going to. And we went and we sat in this stuffy auditorium. And of course, the nuns, she was playing one of the nuns. They do everything in the first scene. And then I was like bored. but somehow when the curtain call happened, and I watched kids my age come out and lose their characters and smile, they looked so happy.
Mm.
And I, I wasn't really a team sport player kind of a kid. I mean, I tried and I knew I wasn't good at it. So I was always hiding in books and stuff. So when I saw that, I remember very specifically my mother driving us home from that. And I said, I'm doing that next year. I'm absolutely doing that. That's what I want to do. And they did Oklahoma the first year, my freshman year, and I tried out and got to play Ado Annie's dad, starting a long line of playing middle-aged men at age 13. I got to sing a horrible rendition of The Farmer and the Cowman Should Be Friends.
What do you mean horrible?
Well, I hadn't figured out my voice yet, and I had this voice at age 12. And so, but I couldn't do la 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 la. I couldn't figure out how to go up there. So I was like, oh, I sang it a whole octave down. Oh, the farmer and the cowman should be friends. It's terrible. But
it's like what's his name? Barry White.
Yes, coming out of a little baby-faced kid. But I loved it. And so it just became everything. I became one of those kids that I would go to school, but I would always think about rehearsal. Oh my gosh, rehearsal, and learning the steps and figuring that out. And so yeah, we didn't have a show my junior year, but I did it all through that year. I wanted to major in theater and musicals and stuff, but my parents were nervous about that, kind of justifiably so, because I was a little naive about the biz and industry and everything. Yeah. So they were like, why don't you major in something close to it? So I ended up majoring in communications at John Carroll University in Ohio, in Cleveland, Ohio. But their communications department had a very busy theater department. It wasn't a theater department, but theater classes. So again, I did theater all through college, and then I stayed in Cleveland after that before moving to LA for about 3 or 4 years. And that's when I did a lot of wonderful stuff like Forever Plaid and
Evita and The Music Man and How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying. All these, I mean, I love that musical growing up. 1776, Annie, Into the Woods. What?
All of those that you just mentioned were thankfully right after I moved to LA. I mean, most people are like, you came to LA to do theater, but I did. I came to LA. My life just brought me to LA. I was a little too afraid to go to New York at that age for some reason. I just wasn't. But I knew people in LA. I came to LA and I started doing musicals at, I guess they're called civic light operas. There aren't as many around now, but I did some at Music Theater West, which is still around in Long Beach. And it was called Cabrillo Musical Theater out in Thousand Oaks. It has another name now. So, and Evita was at San Gabriel, or their civic light opera. So a lot of them involved a lot of traveling, so and at LA, like driving 60 miles to get to rehearsal.
I remember when you were doing that.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, Evita was one of the best productions I was ever in. And yeah, I really loved musical theater for a long time until I just burned myself out by that. Like I would drive to Riverside to be in Into the Woods and to do a rehearsal, and that's 60 miles, and then you would do the rehearsal and then 60 miles home. And I eventually just got a little too burned out around age 28.
Right. I know about the drive. What?
And for the students, you and I figured this out. Lindsay, the dance teacher.
Yes.
At your school. I sat here and I watched those interviews with her. I was just doing them. And then later I was like, I did the math and I said, wait a minute, Lindsay, that voice. Oh my God. I did Into the Woods with Lindsay when she was probably 20 or 22 or 18, or I don't know what she was, because that was back in 2001. But I was watching all these interviews with her and, as one of your teachers there at Performing Arts. And I was like, that's the same girl. She had on a blonde wig. She's a woman now with kids and everything, but it freaked me the hell out.
Where is Lindsay? Where are you? Let's have a reunion.
So our characters rarely had any scenes together. I think we did have that one terrible scene with the giant where we're all leaning back, but I was the steward in that production, which doesn't have that much to do, but she was Little Red Riding Hood, and she kicked ass in that production.
Oh, I love it.
Just so your students know that she was great.
Little Red Riding Hood kicked ass. I love that. That's a good quote. What now? You mentioned all these different shows.
Yeah.
Did you have a favorite, or one of your favorites? Do you have a memory from one of those shows that sticks in your head, like, oh, I remember this time?
I'm trying to think. Well, there are a couple. I mean, Forever Plaid was my favorite show ever, because I got to play with a bass. When you have a bass voice,
Yeah.
trying to be a baritone, oftentimes there aren't really roles for you, actual like leading roles. So I got to play Smudge, who is the bass of the four guys in that show, and it's a great part. And it was probably the best part I ever got to do in a musical that was a lead. Evita was good. As far as memories, I was in a production of Stephen Schwartz's lesser known musical called Children of Eden, that played, I think originally at Paper Mill Playhouse, and then was Music Theater West in Long Beach did it.
Okay. Yeah.
And Adrian Zemed was playing our lead man.
Yeah.
He'd done the show at Paper Mill Playhouse, and I had worked with him in 1776 also. He had played John Adams, and he sang it very well. But what was the point? Oh, our lead female was unavailable, got sick, or something happened, and was not able to do one show. So phone calls were made, and one of the actresses who had tried out, who I knew from another show, was, asked if she could step in for that evening's show. And so they flew her down from Santa Barbara, which isn't that far, but LA traffic.
Yeah.
They flew her down, and she was like, you do know I'm going to have to hold the script. I don't know the show backwards and forwards. And so the actors, I mean, it was just a wonderful moment of the power of theater. Like the actors literally were like, okay, now walk over here. She didn't know the blocking. She'd never seen the set. She just knew the big power ballad singing numbers because she had done the part before, and she kind of knew it, but she had to walk around and hold the script. It just really felt like such a powerful moment of theater to witness that. We're all just standing in the wings watching her do it.
I don't know how people can do that.
Yeah. Her name is Betsy Malone, and she is married to a guy named Steve Glaudini, who she's so well known in the theater community in LA to this day. Yeah. But that's still one of my favorite theater moments, was when my friend Betts, her husband was like, you're going to have someone interesting on the stage with you tonight. I remember him texting me as I was sitting in traffic, and there she was, like a deer in headlights, but the audience was in on the joke. I mean, the guy went out beforehand and said, now listen, folks, we're very lucky to have her, but she's going to be holding the script. But, standing ovation, because they were in on it. Yeah. And it was fun. It was beautiful.
What a great story that is.
Yeah.
What a great story.
I totally forgot about that.
I thought you were going to say the male lead took the female part and they had the understudy for the male. I don't know.
And then I came forward and took Adrian's part.
That's right. So I also read in your bio that you are a recovering people pleaser. Can you explain that more?
What's the absolute truth?
Yeah.
People might be able to relate. Some people might be able to relate to this. I was one of those kids who learned, oh, this is what the adults want, the teachers, the adults. I'm going to do what they want, and all of these other, and then I'm going to get the good grades. And all these other kids that are bad kids who have their own opinions and who are daring to challenge the teacher and are not listening to the teacher and going off and having their own lives and creating stuff, they're bad because I don't know why. It was just It could be my Catholic upbringing, or it really, I mean, that's not true, because it was a Catholic school and there were plenty of other boys and girls there who went on to do their own things or have their own opinions.
Yeah.
It was just, I just realized how much, I didn't realize how much I was a people pleaser. And what I mean by that is you would adjust any behavior so as not to ever make a wave or to upset anybody else. Like you would go in, I would go into any kind of interaction already knowing like what might set somebody off, and being absolutely certain never to talk about those things or whatever. It was a way of feeling like you were giving people what they wanted, but really it was a very false sense of living. It was a very, nobody knew who I was, really. If you had asked anybody between my ages of, let's say 15 and 32, well, except for you knew me, but most people would have been like, Joe, he's nice. He's nice. He's really nice. Yeah, he's just so nice. They would have nothing else to say because I didn't, because I was nice, but I didn't showcase any opinion to piss it enough of an opinion. You know how Betty Davis is like, if everybody likes you, you're doing something wrong. And she's kind of right. At least, I mean, I can't picture you pissing very many people off ever, David, to be totally honest. But you have to at least have a presence and a you know, so that people can latch onto something and form an opinion about you. And I spent most of my youth with my head down, which is a horrible way to go through if you're trying to be a performer. Yeah. With my head down, like, don't notice me, don't notice me, don't notice me. So that's what I mean by a recovered people pleaser. I didn't think it was that bad until I was in therapy once back in my early 20s. Yeah. I recounted to a therapist how I was circling a busy parking lot for the gym. Right. And there was only one spot left and I was going to take it, but I saw someone else come in after me and I didn't want to ruin their day. Oh, I let them take the spot.
That's sweet.
It's bullshit.
That's bullshit.
It is sweet, but my therapist was like, you deserve the parking spot, basically. Yes. So it was that kind of thing, learning to claim your space. So that's what I mean about being a recovering people pleaser. It took a long time.
I'm so there with you. In fact, I mean, I just had a therapy session listening to you because I still notice myself doing it once in a while. And I go, ooh. And at least I notice it because with all the therapy sessions I've had over my 29 years now.
28.
Yeah, something like
but
that.
You know, we are nice. We know we're nice people. We've always known we're good. And it's not that people were trouncing over me. It's just that I didn't think I had enough to offer. I was just kind of tiptoeing through. And I'm so happy I'm done with that.
Well, yes. Well, me too, because it is, you just have to go live your life. And I used to feel that way too. I wanted everybody to like me. And I realized, like you said, what Betty Davis said, it was like, wow, that's so true. Because I wanted everybody to like me, and you can't. There's sometimes there's this chemical connection that just goes like that. And I'm going, okay, got to keep on doing my thing. And like you said, once you started doing your own thing, I walked into Oz, you know what I mean? Sort of like that.
I had plenty of people who liked me, but they didn't have an actual opinion about me, because I didn't ever showcase one. So yeah, that's interesting, David.
I love Max Broomer wrote a happy Mental Health Awareness Day.
It is. It's Mental Health Awareness Month. It absolutely is.
Yeah.
I know that.
Yeah.
A good friend of mine reminded me of that a few years ago. I went through a really tough, this is turning into a therapy session. I'm not even talking about business stuff.
Business and life are like this. We always think, oh, I have to act now, but we're being, as Corey says, seamlessness. Anyway, you were saying.
Oh, no, just 4 years ago, I went through, I don't even remember what I was going to say. I went through a mental health thing, and then I came back, and then I had a point based on something you just said.
Mental health,
Oh, mental health awareness. Thank you. I came back, and a friend of mine who had gone through depression before, you remember this, David. You remember this horrible time 4 years ago. I wasn't answering the phone. I wasn't returning calls,
which
nothing.
was not like you at all.
Right. I wasn't myself. And so when I was finally back and I was better, a friend of mine who had been through a deep depression goes, it's Mental Health Awareness Month. You should write about this on Facebook. You should just lay it all out there and tell people what you went through. And I did. And I wrote this, gosh, to read it, it was probably an 8 or 9 minute thing. But it was that moment where, and it's a shame that it took that long to, I mean, I've had a life that's been great up until then, but it was a shame that it took until around age 48 for this to happen. But when I wrote that, that is when everybody knew me, because it was such vulnerability to talk about suicidal thoughts and look at how terrible I was, and all of these things. And so when I talked about it, it was so funny. All of a sudden, friends that I had from grade school, so many people read it, and they were like, I never read anything this long on Facebook. But so many people read it. They were like, you are a writer, you should be writing.
Yeah.
And it just led to so many much more real connections with people. I had acquaintances and friends reach out to me about friends and daughters of theirs, and friends who were also struggling with things that they never would have mentioned to me before, because they probably thought I would have judged them. But now the slate was clean. They were like, holy crap, everything that he just went through, I can talk to him.
Yeah.
And so I've had people that were just acquaintances or really good friends feel completely at ease calling me and talking about these things. And it's been beautiful, because I've opened certain parents' minds to what their kids might be going through, or whatever. And
yeah. And it's always good, like you say, to be open and get help if you need it.
Yeah. I wasn't open to, I mean, it happened in the height of COVID.
Yeah.
And the height of COVID, when everything was in transition. So, it was really hard to get, you couldn't walk into a therapist's office anymore. You couldn't interact directly with people. So it was hard to get help, especially when you didn't want it.
Yeah.
You didn't want to advocate for yourself. But thankfully, my partner, Eddie, and my family were like determined, and put up with my crap during that time.
I think we're given these things, and this is how I feel sometimes. We're given these things in our life that we have to deal with, that will take us to another level in our life, something that will open us up. I mean, I know that I had about 6 months of something when I hurt my back and neck on the set, and I went, oh my God, my life is over, and this and that. And then I went deeper and deeper. And luckily, knowing that I'm strong enough, and knowing that there's a lot I want out there, I moved through it and got through it, and it's now part of my journey.
And it moved me to it introduced me to the fact that, because I had spent my whole identity was actor, and then voiceover actor, which we can talk about at some point. But this led me eventually, this terrible time I went through, when I laid that out there, like you said, the cards I've sent for years, people would say, Joe, you're such a good writer.
Yeah.
It was always an email that I had sent. It was always an encouraging text I had written. It was always a card I had written. And I thought, that's not really writing, because I was always admiring fiction authors or playwrights or whatever, and I would have a hard time writing that. So I didn't really consider I would nod my head and say, yeah, thank you. That's great. But then after this happened, and I wrote that, I was suddenly just free to, not the blinders, but the self-imposed editing that I would normally do. Like, oh, Aunt so-and-so might read that. I don't know if I should write about that. I was off. It was like, you're almost frickin' 50, write about it, And I started doing that on my own website at first. And then it has grown and transitioned. And thankfully, I remembered that one of my favorite artists, writers, David Sedaris,
Yes.
or Joan Didion, or any of the Irma Bombeck from in the past. These are essayists, and they are bestsellers. And they don't write fiction. They just write about what's happening in life, the good, the bad, the humor. And it's so not everybody wants to read your stuff, but but it touches people, mainly strangers.
Yeah.
And it's been growing from then.
And I know that, you know, in the next year or two, I'm going to see your name in lights as a bestseller on Amazon. Who knows? Maybe it'll be called Gay.
Spelled which way? Yeah.
Any way you want it. And by the way, I wore this because, and this is a good time to show it. Be you. This is the be you moment of the show.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm considering that, you know, when I was doing those return to gratitude posts on Facebook, there was a year there where I did 365 days in a row of gratitude posts, and people really came to appreciate them more than I expected. You know,
Well,
one
they're
day,
healing. You help heal others when you open up.
well, because people were just doom scroll. I could just see people were doom scrolling on social media all day long, and I just wanted to drop one little kernel of like, are you grateful for the hot water for your shower today? Are you grateful that you can do this or that? And so people are like, you need to make that into a book. So
Yeah.
in the past I wouldn't have considered it, but now I might. And
Good.
yeah.
I like that. I like that.
And I'm starting to pivot into I never had thought about this, but it's a perfect combination of the voice and everything, reading my stuff aloud, like David Sedaris does, you know,
Yeah.
to open house, to full houses or whatever. Just it had never occurred to me because I had always avoided open mics and karaoke's and all that for whatever reason, because of my chip on my shoulder. But now I seek them out, and I read like a 5-minute essay I've written, and it's beautiful. It's like the most fun I've had in a long time.
I you know, when you were talking just then, I thought I'm going to see you have a hit show. You might write a great show for Broadway.
For Broadway, something. I mean, I do find I have been a performer. I love performing, but I think I was latching on to the, oh my God, I've got to be the actor. I've got to be in front of the camera. I've got to be for so long. And I really now have finally realized I have the personality.
Gotta be, yeah.
I have the personality for the other side, for being the producer, being the writer, the director, the not just because I'm a control freak, but but because I have that mindset. When I was doing plays, other actors would be so good and so focused on their actor and looking the other person in the eye, and I'd be like, that light is out, you know, or you know, is the person over there going to be able to see me in the sight line? They were like, Jesus, Joe, you're not the director.
Listen,
So,
Streisand does it. You can do it.
Streisand, she does.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm more open to that side. I think I have the personality for the other side of the glass.
Yeah. Well, you know, and that brought up a memory in my life. You know, when you're like in, I don't know, so I was going to say first grade, but it was probably more like third or fourth. When you fill out those forms at school, what are your attributes and where should you go in life? Should, you know, whatever that means.
Right.
Oh, Ranjani says the Zimmerman's family sitcom. But where should you go? And number one always actually was not acting. I think it was number 2 or 3 was acting, but the first one was more an artist, you know, for me. So, which is interesting because growing up, I was a little shy and reserved. And then,
were you?
Oh, you didn't really?
Never would I have guessed that.
I felt, at least I felt that way inside. I guess I didn't show it outside because I was the big Z at Camp Arzim and I sang every lunch in front of the whole camp. So I guess I was out there and I loved even my bar mitzvah, I loved standing up on the stage and singing. And then the first time, when I got this one role, I was Dr. Kitchell in Bells Are Ringing.
Yes.
Got on that stage, I sang my one song. I mean, Dr. Kitchell's in Bells Are Ringing, as some of you know, just for but he has a scene. And I got a standing ovation and laughter. And I was like, ooh, the hairs, they're standing up now. See?
Ooh, they are. They are.
I gotta shave. But anyway, it's those moments in our lives that take us certain ways. And then, you just go through the path. But you were talking about voice and your voice, whether it's for writing or speaking, but how you are a voiceover artist and you make a living at it. How did voiceover come about for you?
It was a little bit of a long journey, but it started just with having a baby face that looked kind of like John Ritter when I was younger, and this voice coming out, and people would be like, "Oh my God, you have such a great voice, and you should do voiceover." I didn't know what voiceover was. I did my first real voiceover in college. Our radio professor kind of pointed out that there were the DJs and they could sometimes read commercials, but there were these other select few who were just voiceover artists who voiced the car commercials or the this or the that. And so that was my first at it. And then when I moved to LA, I dabbled in it a little. I was so focused on theater, that was my love. But I took some classes, and then it wasn't until 2006 or 7 that I said, okay, I'm getting serious. And I started studying with people in LA, different coaches and things. And thankfully, it came at a time when the technology was changing enough that you could start recording at home. I mean, this was sounds forever ago now, 2007, but it was just starting to change and not everybody had it. And so thankfully a teacher was very smart and said to me, it's not just the rich guys, it's not just the rich promo guys that have home studios now. You can just spend $500 or $600 or $700 at the time, maybe less, and start auditioning from home and doing things like that. Yeah. And I ended up deliberately focusing on a part of voiceover that most people might find boring, very unglamorous, very un-Hollywood. Like, I did have an agent, and they would send me out for commercial auditions, and I would try for them. But ultimately, my pay the bills job at that time was just cater waiter, bartending, passing hors d'oeuvres at parties, working premieres, and it was a grind. So when I realized that there was this whole part of voiceover that is kind of boring, like e-learning, corporate videos, talking about the new policy here at Fidelity today, or if anyone has had to sit through a webinar where they have to click through and to be certified for something, they're listening to somebody perhaps talking them through it. And I was like, I could do that instead of passing hors d'oeuvres and putting on the uniform and going to do this. I don't care if it's not glamorous. The Hollywood people, I don't have to compete with John Hamm and Allison Janney for the commercial spot.
Yeah.
They don't want this stuff. And so for me, it was a godsend. And that's mainly what I focused on. So when I try to show people samples of my work, I did provide you with some that have some more showy things.
Yes.
But most of them are more just graphics explaining how a product works or how this medication might work for you or whatever. And I think people hear voiceover and they automatically think Family Guy and animation and Geico commercials and things like that. And those are there, and they're of course lucrative. But to pay the bills, my bread and butter was much more just using my natural voice, acting as if, I have a natural sound of I'm intelligent, I know what I'm talking about. Even if I don't, right. I'll be reading a script about how to prevent a gas explosion for PG&E or whatever.
I was thinking, how do you do one at home when you eat too much food?
I
Really
can't answer
means.
that for you. I
Oh.
can't answer. But it's been good. I mean, it's weirdly not been my passion. I've discovered now writing is my passion, but it has been a wonderful way to feel like I'm part of the business and to use some skills and to use my voice.
Yeah.
And I think it's important, though, for your students to know that voiceover has changed and my voice is out. Yes, they use it, they want it, some, but most people want people who sound like real people nowadays. And that I do sound like a real person. This is my
Yeah.
real voice. I am a real person. However, when I talk, people are like, you sound like a voiceover person. Your voice is too perfect. Your voice is too deep. And so now a lot of times for commercial auditions, I have to kind of lighten it up and kind of sound like this and try to sound more like a real person and all this crap. And I'm just saying, right. I'm just saying, I don't want people to think, oh, you have to have this deep voice to be in voiceover.
That's so funny how you say real person, and now we're going into the AI generation. So it's like, what?
I know.
You have to, and you have to be AI.
Yeah, and believe me, voiceover actors, especially doing the kind of work I've been doing, are very much concerned about that. And AI is absolutely taking a lot of that type of voiceover work. But it's not all lost, because I can guarantee you, having been in sessions with clients where like 8 people have opinions, and how hard it is to get a human being to just get that nuance and that one word they want, or this, that, and the other, they're going to have a hard time getting it. If they're going to be that picky in the future, they're going to have a hard time with some of those AIs, at least for another 10 years.
We need to keep our humanity.
Oh my God. You could say that again. Don't get me started. Every other day, Eddie and I are like yelling about, we sound like, oh, back in my day. We're always yelling about technology in this house.
Right.
So
we have several students and professional actors, et cetera, who are here, and we'll take several questions. So just put that little yellow hand up, or I'll check it. We're going to start off with an actor who was on a show for 5 years, Secret Life of American Teenager. I love his last name. It's Mr. Luke Zimmerman.
Hey, how you doing? So
hi, Luke. Nice to meet you.
I know you. I look your name up. You did that movie with me and David, The Finish Line.
Which one?
The Finish Line.
I don't think so. There might be another one. Is there another? I helped David do some casting once or twice in the past.
Yeah.
Tell me about this movie.
Well, it's about a guy I playing the finish line, and I play a guy named Gary, Gary Coleman, and I play a missing actor named Diamond West. And we sit around the area. David knows he went to the set with me, and then
David was your coach, right? Was David your coach?
Yeah,
on that?
he is. He really is. And we meet this guy, David West, say, oh my God, Lucas working with David West. We love Diamond. And then I do that. It's amazing.
I'm amazed. I've seen a lot of the Meet the Biz interviews.
Yes.
I'm amazed by all the stuff you've done, Luke. I mean, every time David introduces you to some very famous person, and
well, you know what? David is my favorite person. You know, he have my last name. It's creepy how you say it. But I'm really the great thing for you, so do you watch a movie called Meet the Fockers?
I have seen Meet the Fockers.
And you know who's in it?
I do.
Yeah.
I was there when he won the part.
Yeah, you know what? I watched it and I heard the name Don Fokker and did not show him.
Deleted scene number 14
Okay.
or the extended version.
But David,
if I get the deleted scene, it will show you, I hope.
But you know what's beautiful about that story, Luke, is that if I remember this correctly, David created that opportunity himself. He was the one, I think, David, correct me if I'm wrong, you were the one who came up with the idea, oh my gosh, I got to be a part of this movie. And you came up with the name Dom Fokker. And didn't you write the director? I
Well,
don't know. I feel like you contacted somebody and said, don't you need some more Fokkers?
People.
it was sort of like
Well,
that. It's sort of like that. It was, I was looking on IMDb
Yeah.
and I saw Meet the Parents as having a sequel, Meet the Fokkers. And I said, wow. And then the next day it says Dustin Hoffman is playing the father.
Right.
Right. And the next day was Barbara Streisand. I said, oh my God, I'm a love child between the two of them. So I immediately called up my agent. I said, you have to get me an audition because, you know, they're going to have family events. They're going to have, you know, a bar mitzvah, a bris, you know, they're going to be a party. And they said, you and everybody else want to audition for that. I went, okay. I hung it up and I said, okay, I'm doing this. So I got my black and white headshots at that time. And I got two of them. One of them I wrote The Long Lost Fokker. And
yes.
Yeah. And then the second one was me and a puppet, and I said the Fokker twins. And then I'm taking away from your moment here. Sorry.
I don't care.
And then you brought it up, Luke. And then
on spot.
Right. And then so I sent it off. I wrote a little postcard to De Niro, who was a producer, and the director, Jay Roach, and, you know, on. And then I let it go.
Right.
And then 5 months later, I had just cut my hair and had a hernia operation.
I know why he did that.
And I got a call. We have an audition for you for Meet the Fokkers. And I went,
is that where you met Karen Eileen Gordon?
I did, on the set. And by the way, I went in there and they said, pick one of these names. So they had Harry Fokker and they had Woody and and Anita and Frida. And I don't think they had Woody, they added later. But they had Dom, and I went, I'm a Dom Fokker.
Oh, David.
Anyway, I went in, I said my line twice. They didn't even call me back. They cast me. Because look at this face, right?
Look at that face.
Anyway.
Who turned that face down? Not me.
Look, hey. But anyway, that's part of the story. And it was quite and thank you for bringing me that up.
You bet.
Well, you had the hat.
I do. I ordered this from eBay.
I had that yearbook of Secret Life. Because we in high school, we made the yearbook. Yeah, we amazing cast, but they say nice thing to me.
Yeah, you were on that for 5 years.
Oh yeah, I thought we go on, but no, Glee is more popular than Secret Life.
Well, 5 years is not a bad run, Luke.
You know, if you look it up the cast of that show, you'll be amazed.
I tell you, you know what else is going on 5 years? Or in its 5th year?
Meet the Biz.
Meet the Biz!
Well, put me on more Meet the Biz and put me on it.
Oh,
you first guess.
All right. Thank you, Luke.
Mm-hmm.
Bye, Luke.
I love it. There was I have a question too, Joe. Are you strict on time, or can you go maybe a little? You're okay.
I can absolutely go over.
Oh, wonderful, because I know we have a lot of questions here, and
Lord knows I had a therapy session for the first 35 minutes. So yeah.
Oh no, only 22. And mine usually go for 3 days. Okay, next on the list, I know we had one here, but now we have another. We have we're gonna get as many people as possible here. Zuli Johnson.
Hey, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too, Zuli. What a smile.
Yeah, thank you. Welcome. I want to know what's your favorite hobbies. You're not working. What brings you happiness, and what make you a better person?
What are my favorite hobbies and what makes me a better person?
Yeah.
Okay. Wow, those are great questions. Hobbies. I used to be for a brief time, I was a long distance cyclist. I would ride, my my bike, so that was how I would get exercise. Since I've moved to the desert near Palm Springs, it's been a little harder. It's windy, and a lot of the communities have walls around them, so you're like driving for 4 miles next to a wall, which is kind of boring. What are other hobbies? I love reading. I know a lot of people. Good. A lot of people think that's a boring hobby and they want to interrupt you. They think you're bored because you're reading a book, but I love reading, and I have what other hobbies do I like? It's mainly that, and also I've discovered that I really enjoy planning travel and trips. Not big expensive ones, because I don't make a ton of money, but little road trips or little journeys. I find that I actually enjoy the planning part, and I'm pretty good at it. So it always gives me something to look forward to. Like, I'm hoping to go to the North Rim of the Grand Canyon sometime in the summer, because I've been to the South Rim, which is the more busy one.
Yeah.
But the North Rim, it's like 10 degrees cooler, and it's harder to get to, and I've never been. So
That's wonderful.
Oh, and what was your question? The second question about how do I try to become a better person or something? Tell me
Yeah.
again. How do I try to be a better person? Well, it's mainly keeping track of your thoughts. Your thoughts can really lead you down a path of thinking negative things if you let them, as you know, I'm sure. Like, if you just get too angry at somebody, or you just take in somebody else's drama, and then your head is off forever. So I try to be a better person. I've learned to let more things go. I mean, I've always been a pretty easygoing guy, but my head was like this inside. So I'm much more letting things go now. I mean, some of it just comes with age, I guess, and maturity, but that's how I work on being a better person. I also try to spend a lot of time keeping in touch with people. Like, I send paper cards to a lot of people. I know Janet Gallen has visited here many times, and I learned that from my mom. My mom is personally keeping the post office in business with the amount of cards she sends out. I don't send out as much as she does, but I like sending actual cards in the mail, and I think that helps, keep me sane too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're
Good.
very
Great.
welcome, Zuli.
That was great. That was great. And I remember all those years that you did the bike riding for the AIDS
For
ride.
AIDS Life Cycle. Yeah. It used to be called the AIDS Ride, and now it's called the AIDS Life Cycle. It's a fundraiser for the AIDS services for people in Los Angeles and San Francisco. And cyclists would have to raise at that time about $3,000 minimum. And then you took part in this 7-day journey from San Francisco to Los Angeles by bike, camping in each place each night.
Yeah.
I was in shape then.
Oh
It was the
my
first
God.
time, it was the only time I felt like an athlete. Like
Even when I was in shape, I don't think I could have done that.
Oh, it's
That's
hard.
amazing.
I do at the very end want to mention something that might be of help to your students. The website Medium that I'm writing on, I think it's a good opportunity for certain students.
Okay.
So there's time.
And if you want to say it now and then,
Okay, I'll quickly say, most of my writing these days, these essays, is I thank God, a few months ago, November 1st to be exact, I finally got on a public website called medium.com. It is a blogging social media website that has global reach, blah, 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 astronomical. Friends had told me my type of writing should have been on there a good 16 months before, but I didn't understand it. It's one of these sites that has, like, when you read, it's behind a paywall. It's the kind of thing where if you're reading a news article and you read like a third and they say, sorry, you're no longer a member, and you're annoyed. Medium is set up that way. So when I was reading about Medium at first, I was like, I don't want to make my friends pay to have to read my stuff, which was very limited thinking. It was only about my little circle of friends and not the whole world. And so eventually I joined it. You can join Medium, I think, for $5 a month. I know the last thing in the world we need is a subscription, another subscription in our lives.
Yeah, but
But
if it helps.
But if you are a writer, I just wanted to point out to the students there, it is a place where they welcome neurodivergent voices, where they want new perspectives on things. And it is a place where you can actually make money writing these kinds of stories. This is not a pitch. There are no affiliate links here, none of that. I'm as shocked as the next person that I can write about some funny thing that happened to me, some trip I took, some this, that, and the other, and enough people read it, and then like some dollars come my way into my bank account every month. I'm amazed. And I don't know how long, I mean, Medium has been around, I think, since like 2017 or something.
Wow.
And I'm not saying this as a get rich quick scheme. I'm saying this for people who are writers who were maybe frustrated in trying to write screenplays and other types of writing, that there are other kinds out there, the nonfiction writing, that might fill your soul, and you might find a whole community of people who are waiting to hear what you have to say about being raised in the deaf community, about being mislabeled autistic at a young age, or anything, any of these things. They're some of the publications on there are clamoring for what they call unique voices.
They want to hear human stories.
Yes, absolutely, to fight AI. So I just wanted people to be aware of it. If you haven't heard of medium.com, if you're going to write on it, if you're just going to read, that's up to you if you want to spend the money to read. But if you're going to write on it, I highly recommend joining, because then you can interact with the community. You can read anything you want, and it'll lead to things.
I want to be sure to get everybody in. I know we have about 15 minutes left. Thank you, Ken. Let's see. T-Bone. I promised T-Bone, because T-Bone,
Yeah.
you there?
Yeah.
Hey, T-Bone, you got
Hi,
a question
T-Bone.
for Joe?
Yeah, yes, I do. I'm planning to write about my disability, because some people don't give a person with cerebral palsy don't really get the chance to do what they do. That's why I want to eventually write my biography, because a lot of people don't really know about my disability. But I do a lot of stuff for performing arts and stuff. I'm a cameraman. I do camera work. I do the production work for performing arts.
Hmm.
What I want to ask you is, how are you able to deal with the people telling you you can't do this, you can't do that?
Well, it's obvious you have a very strong desire and drive to do this, T-Bone. So, and you've been dealing with this for a long time, people telling you what you can and can't do, I'm guessing. So I don't, the thing with writing is that's wonderful nowadays with technology. It's so much, I can't imagine these people that were writing on typewriters, all these great things that were written in the past. I think too many people just see these things that are in the way, which are not really there. Like, oh, I can't type this and I can't type that. I mean, between recording things, you could record vocally to a friend the things you want to write about, and they could help you write it up for you. And the same with, there are so many technologies for people living with disabilities that you folks know way more than I do. that are making life easier. But I mean, I'm glad you're asking, T-Bone, but I've seen the other interviews with you on here that I've watched with David, and you seem like a very strong fellow who knows what he wants to do. And those people, as you know, are always there, but somehow you keep going anyway. You know, you do what you want to do.
And not only that, it a lot to do with performance and job basic. Because if it wasn't for job and performance arts, I don't know if I ever would have became a cameraman in the production.
Well, I have to say, T-Bone, you are so talented. I mean, T-Bone's been in the advanced acting, and he's been on different projects and this and that. And you you come from a real place, and you also have, you know, you have the mixture of humanity in you. You have the the drama that we all go through and the humor. So that's what's so wonderful about you. And just I'm throwing out my viewpoint too, you know, on writing and writing your own story and mentioning CP, Jerry Jewell, one of the first people with a disability to have a reoccurring role on television, has CP, and she wrote her autobiography. In fact, she's written 3 books. So you just keep doing it.
And it needs to be told, T-Bone. So if you really want to do it, you should write it, because you can't have people say, oh, we already have 2 books on cerebral palsy out there. I mean, do you know how many books on love, you know, straight people love relationships are out there every single year, every single week? I mean, your experience with CP is different from everybody else's, and something that you write is going to open the minds of a mother who just had a child diagnosed with cerebral palsy, or a teacher who might encounter a student with cerebral palsy, or a future employer who might encounter somebody applying for a job. So I think you should keep going.
Keep it up, T. I look forward to your book. I want an autographed copy. Oh, I saw this too. Wait, hold on. Let me get let's see. Do that.
Who, me?
No, I'm trying. Oh, there it is. And then you do this.
Oh, thank God for this.
That's my new
What did we do before we had this?
I don't know, Joe. Ooh. Okay, we have 3 more. We have Raquel Chavez, Luca Selesky, and Julian Carrasco. Not necessarily in that order. Let's do Julian. Julian, are you there, Julian?
Yes.
Hi, Julian.
Yes.
Hey.
Okay, here is Julian.
Hey.
I love your smiling faces.
Thank you. Hey, Joe. I'm a writer myself too. How do you get your ideas like out there, like so people can like read it too?
You mean, how do I come up with them, or how do, well,
yeah, how do you come up with it?
Well, there's both. How do you get them out there? That's always the question. But nowadays with blogging and this site that I was just telling you about called medium.com, you can publish almost all day long if you want. I mean, I wouldn't recommend that, maybe once a day. That's a way to get your ideas out there. As far as coming up with ideas, it's what I specialize in are personal essays. So I tend to write about things that I'm either thinking about or somewhere that I went. Like I went to a chalk festival where people drew colorful images on the ground, a chalk festival, and I just took really cool pictures of them, and then I composed an article about it. And then, but it wasn't just about look at these cool colors. It was about who would do this, some art that disappears the next day when the sidewalks are washed. You know, it became this reflection. So I go through life like a writer does, I guess, with a little notepad or the notes app on my phone, and I'm constantly like typing something in to remind me a few weeks from now when I don't have an idea, like, oh yeah, I'm going to write about the movie Paddington 2 and why it's a thing and why it's this amazing, just whatever is on my mind. That's how I do it.
Love it. Great question. Thank you. Thank you, Julian. Let's see. Next on the list, Lucas Salaski. He's here.
Right here.
Hi, Lucas. I love your hair.
Thank you. What is the most successful in your life? And what do you want the most successful in your life? Just want to bring this up.
What was the most successful thing in my life?
Yeah.
Well, when I was telling David, I completed in this thing called the AIDS life cycle a long time ago, which was this long bike ride. That was the most fulfilling thing that at that point in my life that I had taken part in. Again, I'm going to sound cheesy. What I consider the most success is how much I have come to love myself. Because I did not for a very long time. And I can't explain why. It was like a self-esteem thing or feeling lost in the world or this world isn't for me. But having friends like David and learning, I know you're a musician, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am a musician.
See, it's good. You know what you like, what you're good at, what you're driving for. I thought I knew what I wanted with theater for a long time, and then I hit a rough patch. So I think for me, my success is after having some rough younger years, blossoming into beautiful middle-agedness and finding myself. So, and I know you're young, and that's good, but that's what I would like. And I would love being you're a singer too?
I'm also a singer and a songwriter and everything.
Yes. This success to me would be singing a musical theater song again as a lead and hitting the G note at the end of the song and holding it. Because when I was trying to do musical theater, I was always kept out of certain roles because I could just not hit that final big moment note. So maybe someday I'll get back on the stage. That would be a huge success for me.
I agree.
Thank you, Lucas.
Thank you, Lucas.
Welcome.
In connection to what Lucas said, would that be, if I rephrase the question, would it be the same? What are you most proud of in your life? Is that the same or is that different?
No, I am. It is funny. What am I the most proud of? I am the most proud of the AIDS life cycle. When I succeeded, when I did that, that was just such a big accomplishment moment. But as far as what I'm most proud of, I think it was a bunch of years ago when I came out of the closet, because as a kid, I never imagined that was possible. Ever. I just could not picture it. It just was not on the table as an option. And growing up as a teen in the 1980s with AIDS all over the news and everything, it was just not an option. But having said that, even though I came out, I still had a ton of work to do here. So I'm very proud. I can't believe I'm saying this. I'm embarrassed to say it, but I'm very proud of who I have become post like age 48 or something. I've found not my purpose, but I have found what I enjoy the most. I've found my writer's soul and I have accepted it, instead of saying, no, I'm not a writer. I couldn't be a writer. I'm not a good writer. I finally sat into it. And so that's my answer.
Oh, I love that. That really
Thank you, honey.
Thank you for that. Last question of the day from our wonderful family, Raquel Chavez.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too, Raquel.
And and it's so interesting. I'm going to just intersect here. You're meeting Joe, but Joe has seen you many times because, again, he's seen over 300 shows. Meet the Business.
Yeah, I rewatched the Meet the Business for David, and I attribute them to people. And I've seen them all, I'd say about half of them are perfectly done now, finally. But yeah, I mean, I'll contact David and be like, oh, I loved this moment when so-and-so said this, but it was 2 years ago. And David is like, what? When did that happen? So I know the Meet the Biz more than he does at this point. Hi, Raquel.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Same here.
I had a question. How long have you done theater, acting theater? And why?
How long did I do theater?
Yes.
I hope to be returning to it, but yeah, the main years were at 13, I became passionate about it, and I did that. It was 20 years. I did it until age 33, I'd say, yes, because in age 32, I went to New York. I gifted myself a summer at Circle in the Square Theater School, which was a wonderful experience. But what's ironic is I came home from that and said, I'm putting theater away and I'm going to do voiceover now and really focus on it. But it was 20 years. It was, and the busiest years were when I first moved to LA between 98 and 2002. And that's when I met Lindsay, who teaches there at Performing Arts Studio West. We did one show together. She was a young lady. I was about 27, I think. And those were the busiest times where I had show up right back to back to back. And unfortunately, I burned myself out because they were shows that it all involved long commutes in LA. Like you would finish work at 5 and get in the car at the worst possible time to drive to Thousand Oaks, to drive to Long Beach, to drive to South Bay. But they were wonderful years. They used to be my main heart and my soul. And it's weird that it's not now, but hopefully it'll be a mix going forward.
Right, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for your question.
You're welcome.
So we're coming to the end of this beautiful visit, but of course, the friendship keeps going and going and going.
I've known you, I think, since 1999, Z.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Before the millennium, huh?
Yeah, right before, or maybe 2000, but I think it was 99. It was one of those times Steven Brinberg was in town.
Yeah, yeah. For my final question for the moment, and I just thought of this, it's like, what is one of the top 10 things on your bucket list?
Ooh. In the past, it would have been being in a Broadway show. Absolutely. That was always at the top for years, but not since age 33. So I don't know if that's actually on a bucket list. At this point, part of the bucket list would just be getting back on stage, period, here. Another bucket list item is travel. Like I want to go to Greece. I know you want to go to Greece too, but I want to go to Greece, Croatia. You know, I have some travel things. I think another bucket list item is, you know, being published as a writer, but the main thing is helping people with things, if that makes sense. You are such a giver and such a helper, David. And I want to find a way to give back where either I'm teaching people, adults, to read, like adults who don't know how to read, or helping kids who are in the middle of the country struggling with coming out because they're stuck under an oppressive church or something. That is still very much the case, even now in 2024. And I would love to either write or create something to talk somebody through the crap I went through all those years ago that they're probably still dealing with, things like that. Or there was a period where I wanted to be a therapist, but then I thought I would take people's problems home with me. And so I couldn't do it. But being a teacher of some kind, I would love to be, it is an actual bucket list thing, because I think it's part of my personality to be a teacher of some kind, or to convey information to help people, you know.
I take your class.
How to suffer in LA.
No. How the Joe Guay class.
The Joe Guay class. Yeah, my little subtitle on Medium, and my website is Dispatches from the Gay Life, GUAY. So it's fun. And we're gonna keep
Thank you, my friend.
Thank you, my friend. I can't believe that I'm a guest on Meet the Biz.
Yes, guest on Meet the Biz.
Thank you, Joe. What a delightful visit, man.
You're
delightful. John. You're a delightful man.
Thank you. I've finally grown into a delightful man. I appreciate it.
Well, Joe, we're gonna do a little
group photo.
And the question is, what are we gonna say on the count of 3?
You're gonna say Guay or gay, I think.
Guay or gay. Okay, on the count of 3, everybody unleash your cameras and get ready for 1, 2, 3. Guay or gay.
Gay.
I love it. Thank you, Joe.
You're welcome, David.
Thank you, everyone. This was wonderful.
Everybody. Have a wonderful, wonderful afternoon. And thanks again, Joe. Thank you, David. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, everybody. It's great to see you. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.
Thanks, folks.
I know I'd go from rags to riches if you would only say you care. And though my pocket may be empty, I'd be a millionaire. My clothes may still be torn and tattered, but in my heart I'd be a king. Your love is all that ever mattered. It's everything. So open your arms and you'll open the door to every treasure that I'm hoping for. Hold me and kiss me and tell me you're mine evermore. Must I forever